Welcome and thanks for joining us for this episode. We're going to be talking today about threat hunting, which of course is where you hunt threats. And when the threats are found, that is, if there are any to be hunted, then the threats have been hunted.
And thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching. That's it.
That's the idea.
That's my circular definition of threat hunting. How would you define threat hunting?
So threat hunting is the idea that you have been compromised. You just don't know how or where or what has done it. So let's go find that thing and expose that in that way. So the problem with, I'll say threats out there, is if there's like a breach, the average time before discovery of said breach is around 220 days. That's a long time. You can fully bake a human and birth them in that amount of time, right? That's a long while. I have 3 kids. It's a long while, right? So we want to shorten that down. How do we do that? Well, let's just assume a breach has occurred and start looking for signs of said breach. And that way we can shorten that amount of time. Because if we're only ever reactive, then usually the first sign that we've been breached is they're asking us for money or our stuff has shown up on the dark web or some crazy thing like that, right? So we want to shorten that amount of time. That's why we do threat hunting. That's the importance of it. And it is a good activity to get into for that very reason.
So when you're threat hunting, you're assuming there's been a breach and you just don't know about it yet. You're going to try and find that breach.
Yes.
So hopefully there isn't one, but you have to assume. So one of the things we need to talk about, one of the, I guess, vocab terms would be indicators of compromise. So these are things that might set off alarm bells like, hey, something's weird here, right?
So indicators of compromise, yes. And don't get that confused with indicators of attack, which a lot of people do kind of conflate the two together. So an indicator of attack would be, hey, there's a denial of service that's happening right now. We're being attacked. That is an active attack that is occurring. Or if you caught someone, brute forcing their way through your, login portal or whatever, it's an indicator of an attack. Indicator of compromise is that the attack has already taken place and you lost, right? That is the problem. So an indicator of compromise would be a file that doesn't belong on your system, like malware, right? It is installed. There's like a C2 implant. So what we do is we try to find all these little things that are associated with the breach and bundle them together, and we call those indicators of compromise. And now I can use that to help anybody else that might be looking for similar breaches. So this is going to be file hashing, any IP addresses or domain names that are associated with the breach itself. So if you see the malware or the implant is reaching out to C2 on this address, at this domain name, these URLs, so on and so forth, right? Anything associated with the breach itself. And I actually went out to, the interwebs, because it's a veritable cornucopia of information that you can use. And I found a GitHub repo from ESET, malware IOCs, and you can kind of look at these different IOCs from these different breaches, these different malwares, and see what's associated with it. They kind of give you a little more tangible idea. So anything strike your fancy there, Sophia? Anything look good?
Famous Sparrow is kind of a fun name.
Famous Sparrow.
Yeah.
I like it.
I've not heard of that one.
It's Jack Sparrow. He's the most famous.
He is the most. You have heard of him.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
You have heard of him.
You have heard of it. All right, so let's see here. These are the IOCs that go along with Famous Sparrow. A suspicious hotel guest, indicators of compromise. All right, and they even got a blog post for you, so if you want to learn more about Famous Sparrow, you can. That's cool. But we are seeing, you'll notice, SHA-1 hashes for specific files like riskware.mimikatz.h, and its description is, well, it's Mimikatz, right? We have one that's LSAS dumper. We got an NTP scan, an NBT scan. We've got a dropper for Famous Sparrow, and you'll notice again it's just a bunch of file hashes that are there. What else do we have? Network indicators. Here's CNC or C2. This is command and control. Credits.offices-analytics.com. You have a delivery domain of 27.102.113.240, and then here's how it maps to the MITRE attack matrix. So these are IOCs that we can use and implement into our security systems to help keep us more safe. And maybe if we see something like this show up, it won't slip past our defenses.
So now that we kind of know what an indicator of compromise is, and we've seen some examples here, what would be the process of obtaining an IOC?
Oh, the process of obtaining IOCs is a long and illustrious one. And what we do is, well, we have a lot of fun just looking at things, analyzing. Okay, so collecting, right? We come like collectors. We want to stick them on our shelves and keep them dusted and all that kind of stuff. These things would be logs, files, and what I'll throw under the rubric of other data. So PCAPs are always cool because if you capture what you're doing, so maybe you you find a piece of malware like this. What was this one called again?
Famous Sparrow.
Famous Sparrow, right? We find Famous Sparrow. I grab those files that are associated with it, and I throw it in a sandbox, and I let it run. Well, I'm probably going to do like a network capture on that as well, so I can see how it talks, what protocols it uses, how often does it beacon, how often does it do this, that, and the other, what IP addresses does it reach out to, any URLs, so on and so forth. I can grab all that and save that as a PCAP. That could be definitely a part of my IOCs. Any lol bins that it uses, these are living off the land binaries. So does it utilize PowerShell to do a lot of what it does, or does it have that all baked in to the malware binary itself? A lot of times we see a lot of lol bins being used because that is a much more effective way to fly under the radar. Email address is another great one. Registry entries as well. Scheduled tasks that you might see that it creates. That kind of stuff, like I said, I kind of put it underneath all, other data because it might be metadata. There's a lot of different things that anything you can associate specifically to that breach is what you want to collect, and that's going to be your IOCs.
So you collect all this data, whether it's logs, files, or miscellaneous, various and sundry types. Yes. After you've collected it, the next step would be what? To analyze it?
Yep. You want to see, what does this dang thing do? And how does it do it? So that I can understand my attacker and prepare myself even better for them next time, right? So we're going to do some stuff like reverse engineering. We're going to take that malware binary. We're going to run that static testing where, yes, it is a compiled binary, but maybe I run it through something like IDA Pro or Ghidra to look and see under the hood, can we figure out what this thing does? And of course, we're going to do dynamic testing as well. Slap it in a sandbox, let it run. What does it do? And that's how we get those PCAPs. And, oh, I see that it's creating this file, and I see that it's doing that. And there you go. You write those things down. Those are your IOCs, right? Memory dumps are also usually pretty helpful. Strings, you run strings against this thing. See if there's any ASCII strings. Maybe you can create some YAR rules, and log data would be great as well. Like what kind of logs does this generate? So we can create Sigma rules for that. And then, of course, any other metadata that would be associated with that. So that will be the analysis phase of it. Just kind of figure out what it does. Some of those telltale, the DNA. What is the DNA of this breach? And what holistically does it look like, so I can gather all those things, see how they fit together, what they do, how timely they do it, so we can create a narrative for this.
So now that we've collected and analyzed, how do we, I guess, use what we've learned? How do we apply it?
All right, so we take this stuff now that we understand what's occurred, and now we can do things like track the threats that are out there. It's going to be super helpful. That I know that maybe they have kind of a cycle of attack. Maybe they're because we've definitely started to see this much more recently here as of almost mid-2023, where attackers are kind of staging their attacks. Yes, one little attack happens, but it was just the first stage of a greater attack. So being able to track what they do for other organizations to be able to grab a hold of that information and utilize it for themselves, even though, yeah, you've already been down the hard road of being attacked. But giving that out is super helpful. And then, of course, attribution. Okay, I see this attack is gaining in popularity or gaining in just that it's on the rise, I guess, is the way to say it. Who is doing this? Because malware typically is associated with a threat group, or maybe it is a commodity type of malware, and I can see that it is trending that this is an effective piece of commodity malware. We need to build better defenses. So how do we apply this? Well, attribution, of course, this is the group that's doing it, or I can say through tracking and seeing that this is effective. Why aren't we able to stop that? And now we can build better fences. So that's how we apply this.
Okay. So and these would be ways to, this is kind of how you figure out what those indicators of compromise are, right? You collect this data, you analyze it, you apply it. So what are some of the focus areas, I guess, that we should know?
Okay, focus areas are going to be configurations or misconfigurations of your systems. Isolated networks are going to be another focus area that you're going to want to take a look at because those are going to be very prime targets. Also, business critical assets and or processes. You're going to really want to focus in those areas because those are going to be the most likely targets of your attackers. So just look for those configuration areas where, so how do we configure this thing? Look in that region, and that's going to be a great place to do some threat hunting because you're looking for if you have a place to configure something, that means there's a possibility that you have misconfigured something, which would allow for an attack, or maybe it's been misconfigured on purpose, which would lead you to, oh no, we've been compromised. Isolated networks, why are we isolating a network? Because we don't want people to see it. There's a specific group that's within that network, and that's why they're there, because they should see it. It's that whole role-based access kind of thing, right? And of course, if it's business critical, they want that. So look in there for something that would tip your hand to, oh, this might have a little bit of a problem.
Now, when we talk about threat hunting, like assuming there's been a breach and going out and finding it, there's this concept of active defense. So when we talk about practicing active defense, that you're basically wasting the attacker's time?
Yes, I love active defense. This is actually kind of fun for
Okay.
us as defenders because we get to do that very thing, waste an attacker's time. Now, we do that not just because it's a lot of fun, and a big thumb in the eye to our attackers, but it has the added benefit of increasing the probability of detection because the attackers, they're doing things, maybe even that we've baited the attacker into getting detected, right? Hey, doesn't this website look good? Ooh, look at this page over here. Maybe there's a directory or a login portal. Look at these files. It says financial information. It says research and development. It says creds, right? That's something an attacker's going to go, ooh, I want creds. Let me see the creds. But then they click on that, and it's a tripwire.
Kind of sounds like a honeypot almost, like you're tempting them to
So
come in.
honeypots are one way in which you can do this, right? Honeypots are fun. We like honeypots. But honeypots they almost sit out there just going, I'm a thing. And it is kind of in this active defense thing. But usually those off-the-shelf ones are just kind of like, it looks like a business process, and they're going to go after it. And that's to learn to see what threats are out there, what techniques they are using. Active defense is more along the lines of, well, if you have chosen to target me, I'm going to give you some really enticing looking pieces of bait so that when you ever see a cops do bait cars?
Yeah.
Right? So they set up a car, they put it out,
Yeah.
and thieves will come and try to steal it, and they're just sitting there watching it, waiting.
Just knowing somebody's going to come along.
Right. As soon as they try to steal it, they get busted, right? Same idea here. So I put something that's enticing out there so that they will try to grab a hold of it. So maybe API keys or SSH keys, encryption keys, and any sensitive looking documentation that would entice them to do that. And what I can do is I can work with what's called a canary token. Got canary tokens right here on my thing. If you've never seen this before, I love this. This is such a cool little tool. You can generate a token for all sorts of stuff. We've got web, DNS, AWS keys, Azure logins, certificates. What do we got? Microsoft Word document, Excel. So you generate these little things, and then you can basically attach them or implant them into websites, emails, Excel documents, Word documents, Cube configs, WireGuard VPN, cloned websites, QR codes, Log4 shell, anything that might be really enticing. And then anybody that navigates to that or opens that document, the canary token will go, I have been accessed. And if it's not a file that anybody's really accessing, but it looks like it's a file that everyone is really accessing, then only the people that access it would be attackers. And hey, look, somebody connected and they opened that file. We have a breach. So it's nice. It's a canary in the coal mine. It lets you know the danger is here. It's close. You might not see it, but I'm more sensitive to it, right? So you can create these things, attach them to these things, and as soon as anybody makes contact with it, it lets you know and alerts you immediately that, hey, there's somebody in the system, because nobody should be opening this PDF. I know it says, AWS keys, but they shouldn't be looking at it because no one looks at it. It's not real. And off to the races you go. You got them.
So with active defense, you're not just waiting for something to happen and this might be, you're going out and like, go ahead, try it. I dare you.
Get you a handful.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll see what happens. I got these shiny bracelets for you, as you would say.
Yeah.
And then also, I'd mentioned honeypots earlier. That's not really an active defense thing per se, but is that something you would use in threat hunting?
It would be a part of active defense maybe, but a lot of times we just use honeypots for the purposes of, hey, what kind of threats are out there? Let me pick up on that. Okay. And it just runs, services that you would use in an enterprise environment, SSH, FTP, so on and so forth. And then you set them up to look as close to a production system as they can, so that you can start picking up. I follow a lot of different blogs from security researchers and stuff, and they use honeypots to try to look for new threats, what's out there, and then once the threat attacks it, they can now start analyzing that threat and using that information to create a blog post and go, hey, guess what? New malware has been discovered against Redis servers. And here's how it works. We discovered this with our honeypot. It was attacked. We watched the attack go down. We analyzed the attack. We see all the sensitive information. Here's the IOCs. So it's a really nice way to kind of give back to the community, as well as develop your own security threat information or threat intelligence. And then, if you feel so inclined, you can share that threat intelligence with the rest of the world.
It benefits everybody.
Yeah.
How nice. And because it's a honeypot, it's not really like one of your actual systems. You're not risking your own stuff getting damaged. Cool. Okay. So I think that's probably going to do it, unless there's anything I'm forgetting about threat hunting that we need to.
I mean, I'm sure it could be its own course.
This would be more like the quick and dirty rundown.
This is an overview. This is the things the foundational knowledge.
Okay. Well, thank you for walking us through the foundational knowledge, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.